In our last video, we reminded ourselves how to solve one-step equations, and we worked through some adding and subtracting examples. On this next video, we're going to work on solving equations with multiplying or dividing with our decimals that are both positive and negative. So this first one says the opposite of x over 6 equals 5 4/10, or negative x over 6 equals 5 4/10. I'm going to put this negative with my 6 because either it can go in the top or the bottom when it's out here. I'm going to put it with my 6 just so that I get rid of it when I multiply on both sides. So I see division, and the inverse of division is multiply. So I'm going to multiply this side by negative 6, which means I'm also going to multiply this other side by negative 6. These two 6's cancel out, and I'm left with just x on this side. And I've got a positive times a negative, which means my answer is going to be negative. But then I'm going to do my multiplication out to the side here. 5 4/10 times 6. Remember that with multiplication, we do not need to line up our decimals. We can almost ignore them until the end when we add them back in. So 6 times 4 is 24, carry my 2. 6 times 5 is 30, plus 2 is 32. I've got one number after my decimal point here, and none after this decimal. So 1 plus 0 is just 1 in my answer. So x is equal to negative 32 4/10. If I want to do the division, I can, or I can just think about compatible numbers and estimating. I can say this is about negative 30 divided by negative 6 would be about positive 5. My answer seems reasonable and makes sense as I check using some mental math and some estimating skills. Over here I've got 9 equals negative 3 6/10 d. When I see a number next to a variable, I know that they're being multiplied, and the inverse of multiplying is dividing. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3 6/10. Over here, the 3 6/10 will cancel out, and I'm left with just d. And over here, I've got 9 divided by negative 3 6/10. So my answer will be negative, because a positive divided by a negative is a negative. So I'm going to put my negative sign in now so I don't forget it later. And then I'm going to do my division off to the side here. I'm going to have to add a decimal point with a 0 to my 9 on the inside here. And if a decimal is on the side, we slide. So it slides over 1. So that means that this one is also going to slide over 1. And 36 goes into 90, I believe, 2 times. So 2 times 6 is 12. Carry my 1. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. When I subtract, 10 minus 2 is 8, and 8 minus 7 is 1. So now I can bring down another 0. The decimals in the house, we'll raise it to the roof. And 36 goes into 180. I would guess about 5 times, because 30 goes into 186 times, but 36 is a little bit bigger. So I'm going to guess 5 times here. 5 times 6 is 30. Carry my 3. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 3 is 18. When I subtract, I get 0. And so my final answer here is negative 2 5/10 equals d. You could also rewrite this so that the variable's at the front. Sometimes that's nice. And say that d is equal to negative 2 5/10. I don't mind either way that you write it. If we want to check our answer, we could say, okay, this is about negative 4 times about negative 3. A negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 4 is 12. That seems close to 9 because we know that these two are both a little bit on the lower end. So our answer should be a little less than 12, and that seems reasonable since we rounded up.